So you guys thought that we were done talking about college football. And then comes along Josh Pate and the conversation about the college football playoffs. Welcome back to the midweek breakdown on the AntMan, along with Brandon and Dalton. Did you think that in the middle of February, with 9 inches of snow for you, Dalton, and 2 inches of ice for you, Brandon, that we'd be talking about college football and what the college football playoffs would look like in 2026?
I won't say I ever ruled it out, but we had other stuff that we could have talked about, but here we are.
I mean, I had hoped because we all felt like there needed to be a lot of changes, but I didn't necessarily expect it at this time. No.
Some changes for sure, but also some revelations, I believe, as well. Here, let's play this little clip from Josh Pate that dropped this week.
Understand what you're looking at right now. I'm going to read it verbatim. Quote, according to most who have viewed the Memorandum of Understanding from last spring, the SEC and Big Ten hold sole discretion on the future college football playoff format starting in year 2026, the beginning of the CFP's new 6-year TV agreement with ESPN that runs through 2031 playoff. The agreement grants the league's decision-making powers over the format, but does direct them to have meaningful consultation and collect input from other conferences before making their decision. So, that is how you exert authority.
And that's you saying the quiet part out loud, Josh Pate. Everybody thought this, but now it's confirmed. Dalton, you said this has been a big buzz already since that dropped until we do this podcast, right?
Yeah, I mean, it's turning into, if you're not part of the SEC or the Big Ten, you're just upset at how things are going. But we've said it for a long time now that we thought that they were just going to disband from the NCAA in general and say, we're going to do our own thing. And the NCAA basically tells us right here, they want to continue to be the NCAA. They can't do that without the powerhouses of football. So they're just going to give them the power. And I think it's hilarious.
Brandon, other than the people who can't drive on ice, which I don't know many that can in Oklahoma or anywhere else for that matter, has this been the talk in Talk Sports for the past couple of days?
I didn't really listen to a whole lot today. I'm not going to lie, because
watch the weather.
I didn't go to work today because there's too much ice on the ground. But the topic was broached yesterday a couple of times at a couple of different shows I heard. And just like Dalton said earlier, it's basically the SEC and the Big Ten saying, look, you have nothing without us. Yeah. So either you give us what we want or we'll go create what we want. And I really think that's what it is. And the NCAA is like, look, do we want to have our marquee game this week be UNLV at Arkansas State?
Right.
Or do we want it to be Ohio State at, Alabama?
Because that will be the marquee game, just not on your channel.
Right, exactly. So I think really it's the SEC and the Big Ten exerting their authority and saying, either bow down or get out of the way.
Yeah. And they did make the little concession of saying, we'll listen to y'all and we'll consider it. But we decide.
Listen. They'll let you speak, but they won't listen.
They didn't say who would be listening. It might be an intern. It might be I don't know.
Well, they might listen, but they're probably not going to hear you.
Right.
Yeah, you can talk to me while we go to lunch. Come on.
Yeah, let's go.
Yeah. Walk with me.
And it's not a coincidence. Like now looking back, people were upset with OU and Texas for leaving the Big 12 the way they did, taking the buyout, all that stuff. Mm-hmm. But they've seen this coming. And you look, why did Florida State and Clemson, why did they exert their options or exhaust their options? What can we do to get out of our contract? Because we want to go to the SEC. Why? I think they've seen this coming. They've known. I mean, you look at it was the best teams in the Pac-12 that said, all right, we're dumping this conference. We're going to the Big Ten. And then the rest of them just had to figure out where else to go. So there's no – it is the college football is the Big Ten and the SEC. There's no doubt about it. They're the best two teams. I even saw today, it talks about they're going to have guaranteed 4 teams but that doesn't mean they're not going to have 6 or 7.
Yeah, no, you're right. I mean,
and
it could be 7 teams from the SEC, 7 teams from the Big 10, 1 team from, the Big 12, and 1 other team, because they're talking about expanding it to 16 teams.
Yeah.
So, the way he went way into it. I mean, if you go watch the video, find Josh Pate. It's a 16-minute video, and he explains it all, and he explains it all very well. But they're doing no more automatic, buys.
Okay,
if
good.
you have 16 teams, if you have 16 teams, you won't have any buys.
And will that start next season?
No, not till 2026.
1 more year.
Got it. Okay.
Not till 2026. So he was like, and the way it sounds, they're going to throw them all into a pool, and they're just going to run with it and figure out who needs to be where. He said the thing that it might change and it might make very much less important or even do away with is an SEC conference championship or a Big Ten conference championship. Now, everybody says, well, so you're going to do away with championship weekend? No, because what he's hearing from people is that the top 2 teams in the SEC, we'll use the SEC. The top 2 teams in the SEC are automatic bids. If you have the top 2 records in the SEC at the end of the season, you have automatic bids. Then you got teams 3, 4, 5, and 6. And so the other 2 automatic bids that the SEC has 4, right? The Big Ten has 4. The other 2, they may have 2 games on that Saturday where you're putting a, Tennessee versus Mississippi State and, whoever. I mean, but then those winners of those games get to go on and be the other 2. Not saying the losers of those games don't get in, because as we said a second ago, I fully expect each of these teams probably to have, or each of these conferences probably to have no less than 6 teams in when it's all said and done. And then there's 4 at-large bids. Well, those at-large bids may end up coming from those leagues too. It's just going to depend. So the other conferences are going to be pissed and are going to be mad about it. But you know what? You don't run college football. Period.
Well, I'd really like to start seeing these other conferences try and play to like 1 SEC team and 1 Big Ten team every single year before you get to conference play. If you're in the ACC, like I liked that Clemson started out with Georgia last year. Now go play somebody in the SEC as well. Don't go play Georgia, get curb stomped, and then play 2 really terrible football teams. I want to see these teams going and playing, because then if you do play the top half of your conference, depending on what the schedule looks like, now your strength of schedule is going to be a lot tougher when it's all said and done. And I think that the SEC and the Big Ten, when they're looking at these, they're going to take that into account. Just because you won 10 games, if 3 of those games are against
bottom feeders,
right, they're going to say, no, we're done with it, we're not guaranteeing this. So honestly, like you go back to this year, you look at the fact that Boise State, yes, they ran their conference, but the fact that they played Oregon to 1 touchdown helped them. That would help them in a given year. But if Boise State doesn't play that Oregon game this year, if it was next year that had happened, they're going to look at it and say, okay, you won your conference, and if you get in, you are the 16th team. If you get
Well, one other thing he said in there that I thought was pretty cool is apparently the SEC has been wanting to go to 9 conference games a season. And this gives them that opportunity because they know the strength of schedule in the SEC. They didn't want to do it before. They didn't want to do it and have an Alabama lose a game, or a Georgia lose a game to, a Kentucky, and only have 7 other good games in the conference that they played. It's going to lead them to being able to play 9 conference games. So you're going to get to play teams more often, with the league being 16 teams. So I don't know. I love it. I love what it sounds like it stands for. I love everything about it right now. We'll just see if that's what really pans out and what really happens.
Just to clarify, it's the 2026 season that happens with the champion crowned in 2027.
Correct.
Right.
Correct.
Okay.
So it will not be this next football season. It will be 2 from now.
We get one more season to talk about. Man, I can't wait till next season because it'll be like this.
And remember 3 or 4 years ago, we were talking about it.
Yeah, can't wait for the playoffs.
It's only 2 more years until we actually have a playoff and not just 4 teams. I mean,
for sure.
And everybody's never going to be happy. I mean, we were all raised in church. We've all heard the saying, Jesus couldn't please 12, right? So there's no way everybody's ever going to be happy. But I think we're on the right track of getting to some normalcy that appears on the outside right now to actually make sense, where the other did not.
Yeah. But it only makes sense if you're on board with and can understand and agree that the SEC and the Big Ten are the 2 powerhouses in college football.
Yeah.
Well, but if you're not on board with that and you can't agree with that, you're delusional. I mean, nobody going into last season's playoffs, we all thought anybody that says Boise is getting a bye and Arizona State, they're delusional. That's just dumb, But it happened, right? Now everybody knows that the Big Ten and the SEC, with the 2 mega conferences they've created, poaching teams from the Big 12 and the Pac-12, and everybody knows that they run the show. If you can't open your eyes and see that, then you're either wearing your team's tinted colored glasses or you're just dumb. Period.
Speaking of wearing home team tinted colored glasses, did our Oklahoma softball girls make it from the West Coast back home just in time for the ice, or are they still hanging out there where it's a little warmer?
No, they're back. They're back. Had a great weekend. 2 weekends ago, had a great weekend in California. This past weekend, they were actually at Baylor in a
right up the road.
Little, I don't know, tournament. It's not really a tournament, but
like
a little classic, we'll call it. Yeah, a little classic that we'll call it, with OU, Baylor, and Hofstra, where OU went 4-0 again, and so OU is now 10-0. I mean, the crowning kind of achievement came on Sunday when OU won 8-0 against Baylor to end the final game of that. I keep wanting to call it a tournament. Final game of that classic, but Sam Landry, OU pitcher, throws a perfect game. 15 up, 15 down. We run roll them in the 5th inning, 8-0. Because if it's 8 or more runs after the 5th inning, the game is over. Or 8 or more runs in the 6th inning or the 7th. If you're up by 8 after 5,
it's over.
Then the game is over. It's a run roll. I mean, OU's bats finally came alive, which was really nice to see. I mean, watch several of the players just hitting the ball. Ilana Agbayani is just hitting the ball. My wife can't ever remember her name, so she just calls her Abu Dhabi. And so, yeah, she's Abu Dhabi.
Appreciate that, I'm sure.
Then you have
she just
Ella
needs
Parker.
Unity to show up.
Yeah, like in football season, Unity made every play that game. It was crazy. he threw and caught 3 touchdowns in that game.
That will never get old.
And it wasn't 6 different plays; it was in 3 different plays.
Oh.
But Ella Parker's ripping the cover off the ball. At one point on Sunday, Ella Parker was 6 for 6 or 5 for 6. Ended up, I think, 5 for 7 or 6 for 7, something like that. Hitting the cover off the ball. Sydney Parker, youngster, number 77. Remember that name, Sydney Parker. She is awesome. She had a pair of home runs on Sunday. Ella Parker had a home run on Sunday. Abu Dhabi had a home run on Sunday. Ilana Agbayani. But I mean, they're really playing good right now. That first weekend in California, I was a little nervous. I was like, look, we're still Oklahoma.
Yeah.
But we're not
we talked about
Oklahoma.
That. Yeah,
right?
exactly.
And they're still Oklahoma softball. I mean, Patty Gasso in 31 years has won over 1,500 games. I mean, she's amazing. She's probably, I mean, I don't even think probably. I think she's the best coach on OU's campus, period. And she has proven it year in, year out, been to 17 straight. I think she's been to 17 straight postseasons and won, obviously, the last 4 national championships.
Yeah.
Has a chance to make that 5 this year if this team can turn the corner. I mean, pitching has been great. Everything has been really good. Sam Landry, I think, is the real deal. In my opinion, she is the number 1 pitcher. As long as we can keep our bats going, we're going to be Oklahoma again.
Nice. NBA turned the corner over the weekend for the NBA All-Star game. Is that what everyone was watching? No. Once again, it was the dunk off. Dalton, this is your favorite part of the All-Star weekend?
I honestly probably like the 3-point contest better.
Oh,
just because I was a 3-point shooter. I mean, I could never dunk it. So why do I want to cheer on these dudes that can dunk it? I want to see him hitting shots. But it was the dunk contest was once again really impressive. Yeah. You get to a point where when you start watching All-Star Weekend, which I mean, I've watched All-Star Weekend for a long time now. It's always honestly used to be better. I like the games to be more competitive. Sure. So the games itself aren't the best to watch, but the dunk contest is always very exciting. There's something electric, but you ask yourself, how many like recreations of these dunks can we get?
Right.
And Mac McClung, since the NBA's, inception of the dunk contest in 1984, there's Nate Robinson. He won it 3 times, but he didn't win 3 straight. He won 1, lost a couple years, and then won back-to-back. McClung's the first player to win 3 straight. He won 2 with the 76ers. This year's with the Magic, and he scored a total of 200 points. And I mean, we all thought that it was cool when Blake Griffin jumped over the front of a car. How about jumping over the entire car with a dude hanging out the sunroof to be able to grab the ball? I mean, he's just so freaking impressive. Like his hops are ridiculous. Some are saying that he's giving Vince a run from his, I think, was it 06 or 07, back when Vince Carter did his just impressive dunk contest. Amazing. But yeah, that's what Mac McClung's doing. And so for a guy in the G League, I mean, he's just a G League player. He's a 2-way player playing in the G League. He's not even really touching NBA minutes, and he's out here just absolutely jumping like crazy. So his final dunk, I don't know. It's just 3 years of it. I mean, you got to be able to hoop to a specific standard. And he's a very good basketball player. It's not that he's not a good basketball player, but being a dunk champion is a little bit different than being able to step on the floor and impact winning, especially when it comes to playoff basketball in the NBA. So,
I think he's the best dunker for sure since Vince Carter, and the best dunk contest player since Vince Carter. Yeah. I mean, Zach LaVine, those days gave him a good run for his money, but man, some of his dunks are ridiculous. I'll never forget the Vince Carter year. Like, that dude was ridiculous. Dalton, you were very young for that one. But
I mean, I've seen the dunks, but I don't remember, actually watching it in 06. But
that's back when the All-Star games actually were good. I shouldn't say good games, but back when they actually played.
They were competitive.
They were. They wasn't much defense.
Yeah.
There wasn't more than ever much defense, but there's a ton more than there is now.
Honestly, the last time that we saw, in my opinion, a really good finish to an All-Star game was after Kobe had died, and they adopted the Elam Ending, if you know what that is. So the Elam Ending, basically you take a target score and you play to that instead of playing to the buzzer. So they pick a time. So in the fourth quarter, under the first dead ball at the 4-minute mark, clock goes away. You still have shot clock. And then what they did is they added 8 points for Kobe to the winning score. So if you're winning 80-78 at the first dead ball, add 8 points. So the target score is going to be 88. So whoever scores 88 first, almost like pickup basketball on the streets growing up as a kid, like you play to 21 or whatever. Yeah. Now you can't just foul or any of that. So you have to win on a made bucket, and defense wins the game at that point. So that was like a super competitive ending because
that's cool.
You actually had to defend. You couldn't let them score. So that was a lot of fun to watch. There's actually like totally random, but there's an argument right now to switch basketball completely to the Elam Ending. If you've heard of, it's called the TBT. It's the basketball tournament, and it's $1 million tournament in the summer. And it takes about a month of, maybe it's the month of June, might be July, but basically you just play. It's a single elimination tournament, and whichever team wins, you split $1 million between whoever's on your roster, right?
Wow.
And every single game is the Elam Ending.
Wow.
So it's like the end of those games are what you want to watch because they are playing as hard as they can defensively, trying to get stops. Like it's a fun brand of basketball.
Yeah,
I agree.
Sounds like it. That would be really cool.
Okay. I'd like to see him go back to that.
Yeah. Now that we're in the back half of the season for the NBA, and it feels like that Oklahoma is back to full strength, what do you think the chances are of them making the tournament before the injuries or before the returns, I should say?
The Thunder?
Yeah, Thunder.
I mean,
did I not say Oklahoma?
Yeah. Oh, you just said Oklahoma.
Yeah. Oklahoma. Yeah.
Sorry, I didn't know if you were talking about Oklahoma men or Oklahoma City. I mean, it is a massive disappointment to me if they don't make the NBA Finals.
Yeah.
I mean, we got to, we're at this point now where we're 28 games left of the season. We've still only lost 10 games.
That's great.
So we're 42-10, whatever it is.
Yeah.
41-10, maybe 40. I don't know. But I mean, the Thunder are, in my opinion, far and away the best team in the NBA. And that's not just homerism. That's just from watching them play. Their young bodies are, some of them have broken down, but everybody's healthy now. We have Chet and Hartenstein on the inside.
That's right.
As long as we can keep everybody healthy, I think it's a massive disappointment to not make the NBA Finals. And then I don't see anybody beating them right now. I really don't. In a 7-game series, I don't see anybody beating the Thunder right now. Dalton, what do you think?
Yeah, I agree with you. At this point too, I would not be surprised to see an Oklahoma City, LA Western Finals. I think that just with everything that's gone on, LeBron and Luka are going to find a way to click. That's going to be a tough team, and that's not going to be a team that you necessarily want to see because Oklahoma City in the Western Finals struggled against Luka. And so that one, a 7-game series, at least you would have the home court advantage. So game 7 would for sure come back to Oklahoma City, which is what you want. But no, I love where they're at. They're going to open up the back half of the season with Utah, who's a 13-win team. But here's how I think the NBA is so stupid sometimes. If you looked at our schedule, on Sunday the 23rd, Oklahoma City plays in Minneapolis against the Timberwolves to turn around on Monday night and play the Timberwolves in Oklahoma City.
Mm-hmm.
That's so dumb. You're in Minneapolis Sunday night for a game to turn around and both teams to fly to Oklahoma City to play a game.
Well, I think we did that earlier in the season, but when we did it earlier in the season, it was Dallas. So
I don't think that should ever happen though.
Yeah.
The NBA schedule.
I don't either.
It's a 30-minute PJ flight.
Right. Right.
I'm just the NBA makes no sense to me sometimes, but you're getting to the point where you just want them to stay healthy to finish the season strong. Like at this point, I don't want to see us rest guys unless we absolutely have to. If we don't need Chet and Hartenstein for big minutes in specific games, as long as we still secure the 1 seed, I think that we need to make sure they're healthy for the playoffs. But Oklahoma City is also not a team that's just going to start sitting because they love to play the game. They have fun together and they want to carry their momentum into the playoffs. So they don't want to sit. And so, I like where they're at. They're just a fun team to watch. And so, we're coming up on the end of February, and then you have March, and then in April there's only 7 games. So we're getting close to that 82 mark.
I think we're 9 games ahead in the Western Conference right now of the second place team.
Oh, wow. Is that right?
Is that right, Dalton? I see you looking.
Yes.
Cogs are spinning in his head.
8. We're 8 games. It's Memphis.
Oh.
Okay, so we're 8 games
ahead of
on
Memphis.
top of Memphis.
And we're tied right now.
Seed.
We're tied right now with Cleveland at 44-10 for the overall.
Yeah.
Which that's big for the finals. Like
absolutely.
we need to probably finish. I don't want game 7 back in Cleveland, although I still think that Boston's going to beat Cleveland in a 7-game series, but that's just my opinion.
I agree.
But I think that if you get to the NBA finals, you want game 7 in Oklahoma City. You don't want any other other picture, because it's still going to be, this low market team, this low. I mean, you're doing something that Durant, Westbrook, Harden, Ibaka could never accomplish. And so for this team to be, there's going to be a lot of eyes on this team. There's going to be a lot of pressure on this team in the playoffs. So you want game 7. So I just really hope they finish number 1 overall in the NBA.
That'd be cool. Agree. And if once we get to April, see if we can't, if not before then, have Brandon Raybar back on with us to talk a little Thunder basketball.
That'd be awesome.
Fun combo and a lot more at stake with that conversation too. So it'll be fun.
Yeah, no doubt.
Do we need to hit bull riding this week? Did we miss that? Do we need to?
No, I think the Professional Bowlers Association was in Tucson this week, but no, I have no clue. Just kidding.
Tucson's a hot spot for bowling, I'm telling you. Kingpin for sure. Absolutely.
United States Pickleball Association.
Oh, I don't knock that. That's happening in Scottsdale, I know, because that's where all the old people are.
Pickleball has gotten big. Every time we drive through KC, there are pickleball like arenas. I'm like, what in the world?
Well, it's great for old abandoned buildings. Just clear the place and put up some nets. It's awesome.
Right?
Yeah.
It can't cost that much.
That's right. Walmart goes out of business, or whatever store. Kohl's is done. Let's throw a pickleball court in that place.
We can throw 40 of them in that place.
Exactly. That's what I mean. Yeah, get out there, go play.
Hey, we are getting closer and closer to seeing the commercials for the Masters. So
you are right.
Okay.
You're right.
I do enjoy
have y'all watched
those.
Any of the I don't even know what it's called. TG something, the indoor golf league stuff?
I haven't, but you were telling me about it.
Indoor
golf. I watched there's like an indoor golf league that's all the PGA golfers. They created teams and they play like I watched Phoenix versus Florida or something the other day. Arizona versus Florida the other day. Saw like 5 minutes of it while I was at work walking through on one of the TVs, and it's crazy. You should really look it up and check it out. It was had to be on ESPN because it was on mainstream cable. So it's crazy though. They hit their drives into this simulator screen.
Stop.
And then once they get a certain distance, they're in an arena that's full of people.
Right.
It's like people are all in these lofts up around the top.
Yeah.
And once they get to a certain distance, they actually hit golf balls to a green that I believe is hydraulics, and it moves every time. And they hit these shots and they bring in real grass and put like these huge 12 by 12 squares of real grass on top of this sand, and they're leaving divots and hitting the balls to the green. They're going up and putting. They're doing all this. If they finish the hole, or if they finish the round and they're tied, they go to like a 50 or 60 yard chip off. And you pick your 3 best players from your team, or your 3 players that you want to hit from your team. They're all professional golfers. So you pick your 3 players you want from your team, and they basically go 1 against 1 against the other team. Whoever's close gets a point, and it's 2 out of 3. So it's really fun. Somebody chipped one in the other day from like 84 yards or something.
Yeah.
And still ended up losing because they just won the second point, and then they lost the third point too. But it was actually more fun to watch than I thought. When I first heard about it, I was like, this is going to be dumb. And
sounds like in a lot of cases it's better than watching golf.
Normal. Well, and it's like with the crowd being there and being inside the arena, every shot is like the 16th hole at the Waste
Phoenix
Management.
Open.
Yeah. Every shot, because they're cheering, they're booing, they're all the players are just having fun. It's almost just a fun thing. I'm sure they're gambling like crazy, but it's almost just a fun thing. And it was a good time to watch it. Like I said, I watched 5 minutes of it, but I'm going to try to catch some more of it because I
have to
enjoyed
look that up. I have to look that up.
Yeah,
That's
you
cool.
have to look it up.
Yeah.
All right.
Awesome.
Well, guys, short week this week. Don't have a whole lot to talk about, but you know what they say, right?
The weekend is good.
But the weekend is always better. But the midweek is always better.
And boom goes the dynamite.